All right, well that's super impressive and exciting. I just did just a couple minutes in here. I actually have a busy schedule where I want to get some trees planted in a hurry, so I'm not going to do much more of this, but it's proven to me that this tool is super useful. I'll do some more mowing and show you more of that later, but it just took what was all the bramble and just made mulch out of it, and this is going to go away in a huge hurry. We can get in here and plant and do other things. I'm going to chip this pile up now, and I've got a spot to work in. I'm excited about this tool. Hey, welcome back to Outbuilding. This I'm going to pick up now. I shot that video the other day when I had just some work to do. That was my first time with the flail, so I'm going to go through the flail a little bit more and kind of give you some descriptions of kind of how I picked this one, why I picked this particular model, but also this particular style. And then I'll set this up and go out and do. I've got a really nice day today. It's nice and sunny, and it's finally drying out a little bit. We've had just a ton of rain, so I can try some areas that I haven't been able to get into yet and give this thing a try and show you that. All right, so first of all, I'll talk about why I got this brand. And the primary reason is that the distributor for these is located about 10 miles from where I live. And so I was able to drive in both for the first one I bought and the second one I bought. They loaded it on a trailer on my forklift, and instead of spending $800 to ship it across the country from Good Works Tractors or from some of the other people that provide these, I was able to get it just delivered, just dropped on my trailer, which was great. Comes in a crate, so you have to assemble it. So both with the ditch bank flail, I think it took me about 3-4 hours to kind of put all that together, get the hydraulic fluid in it, get it loaded up, greased up and ready to go. And then unfortunately that one didn't work. So I found a new home for that one, went back second time and picked up this one. And one of the other things that I noticed is right away when I got it, I think if you look in my initial tractor video, which I will again link here or here, that one, the original PTO shaft was so small that it didn't even, it really was almost separated when I put it in here. The tractor I have, the Yanmar 425, has slightly longer lower links than some. And so again, I called the dealer. He said, well, if you haven't used it, just bring it back in and we'll switch it out. So I got a brand new PTO, proper length. It worked out great. And again, no shipping or anything. And that I assume down the road, if I need some parts or something, I can go get that. So that's kind of why I picked this brand. I think they're all pretty similar. I think many of them are made in the same factories. This one's made in Asia. There are some Italian ones. However, I don't know where they're made. They may be made elsewhere. And I've read reviews on others. You got to go through them all and check all the bolts and test everything. Because I assembled this, I was able to kind of verify things. There was some little lock nuts that they provided, the distributor, because the pulleys actually kind of walk out. I'll show you a little video of that. Okay, and then behind the belt guard, there's a series of 8 bolts that hold on the pulley, both on top and bottom. And they said that, I guess those back out. So they gave me lock nuts, and I've gone through and I've re-snugged them. It was actually surprising. A couple of them are loose. Talk a little bit about the size of this one. So this is about a 48 inch. I think it's 125 centimeters, whatever that comes out to, but it's about 48 inches. It's a little bit narrower than my tractor, but I can offset it back and forth. I have a fairly low horsepower tractor at 25 horsepower, 24 horsepower. And so that's right at kind of the edge for this thing. When I did run it, it seemed fine. It didn't seem to bog too much, but like with most things, the lower horsepower, you got to go a little bit slower, and you may make more passes because it's smaller. But I felt like for getting around on the terrain I've got and everything, I need to kind of keep it really nice and compact. I've got really hilly areas here, and I'll learn. Today I'm going to try to stick to flatter areas, and as I get more comfortable, I'll try other things. They come in different sort of duties, which I think is just how big the rotor blades are, the rotor is, and how big the metal is. This is 1/4 inch plate most all the way around. It's the heavy duty version that they have, which is, again, it goes up to about 3 inches around in wood, which is really awesome for the kinds of stuff I'll go through. And from that first test I did, it seemed to go really well. So this is actually not my first flail. The first one I got with an eye towards that larger tractor. We were going to get the LX 3520, which is a slightly bigger tractor, Kubota tractor. That fell through, never was delivered after 8 months, and so we kind of switched over to the Yanmar, which is a little bit smaller. So the first one I got was a ditch bank flail mower, and it has a long arm. It's pretty similar. The flail head is pretty similar to this, although this one's a little bit more heavy duty. But it sits out on a really long arm, and with a really light tractor, that's going to make it pretty tippy, both in terms of twisting the frame, but also just literally tipping the tractor. So this one sits in real tight against the 3-point hitch. It does have a hydraulic offset, so I can scoot it back and forth, and that means it's about 4 feet wide. My tractor wheels are closer to 5 feet. And so I can kick it over and I can basically cover my tracks on one side or the other and kind of work along the side of a road or work on one edge of an area that I'm clearing. So that takes up one hydraulic rear remote, and so I'll get that connected up. I had to change out the fittings on this to fit the ones on the rear remotes on my tractor. And the first time I used this, it was just marginal because the top link was all the way out at its very limits. Since then, I've got a hydraulic top link. I'll put a video to setting up that top link here or here, whichever one, and you can take a look at that. That top link will be really nice to use with this flail because you can adjust the pitch of the flail a little bit and have it either cut a little bit more because it sits on a back roller here. It'll cut a little bit more if I dip it down, or if I can pull it back, I can feather that and also manage dips in the terrain I'm in. So I'm going to switch to a different video and show you how the blades are set up on the rotor on this thing. All right, so I hope you can see this okay. Each of these hammers is held on by a bolt, and I'll check all those for tightness. And then as this thing flips around, the hammers will drop down. So the way they work is if they hit a rock or something, they'll flip back and get out of the way. And then there's serrated teeth up here that help catch material and keep it agitating in there until it gets ground up. And then I think you can hopefully see on the end here, there are a number of holes so I can adjust this shoe that it rides on and adjust the height. Well, the roller and back can be cocked down and up, and then I can also change these shoes. And I think I'll probably start with a fairly high setting and do all my cutting the first time fairly high, and then come back to it and try to drop it down as I learn more to use it. Anyway, this is what it looks like underneath, and it's pretty simple. It's on a spindle. It's got greased bearings on both ends of this big, huge drum, and it's about a 14-inch radius that these hammers fly around in here with the gear reduction of the belts, so that they'll be going pretty fast. And then it rides on the roller and back here, which is a big drum roller, and so that keeps it up off the ground, and it tracks the ground with that. There are two kinds of blades. There's hammers, which I've got here, and they'll do pretty big stuff. They'll go up to, like this one, because it's a heavy duty one, will go up to about 3 inches in diameter. So that's all the kinds of brush and Scotch broom and things we have around here. I should be able to just cut off just nib it off right at the top. There are also grass blades, and they're like Y blades, and they are, I think, a little bit better for grass, although I've heard the hammers do really well for kind of everything. So I went with hammers. They're heavy duty. I'll show you the steps that I'm going to go through just to kind of prep it to go, and so we'll go start cutting. So the first thing I'm going to do is just run around and hit all the grease zerks with the grease gun. It's pretty new, and I greased it when I got it, but I think just making sure that stuff's flowing well. So I'll get a pump or two in each of the PTO universals. They've got the areas on the actual unit here really well marked for where you need to lube, so it's pretty easy to find them. So next up is just to get the PTO shaft loaded on, and it's got on this end it's got a, what do they call that thing? Shear bolt. Get that clipped in there, and then I don't have a good way to keep this thing out of the way, so I'm just going to use some rope and tie it up, just so that when I'm loading back in the tractor up, I don't pinch anything. All right, so I'm still learning how to do the 3-point and get better at it, but got that hooked up, and now the PTO's got to get it stretched and installed. And these little retainers hold on to the outside shaft. Cycle the hydraulics a little bit to reduce the pressure, and then go ahead and hook up my rear remotes for the hydraulics. All right, should be all hooked up and ready to go. So I'll pull it up and just make sure it's clearing things okay, which it seems to be. And then I'll run my hydraulics back and forth. That all looks good. And then this hydraulic top link, I can change the pitch with it. But I'm going to make an adjustment. The shoe that it rides on is, I'll show you. So this shoe is what the whole flail rides on, as well as the roller and back. And I'm going to adjust them down. They were really, it was like scalping the ground when I used it the first time, which was fine for what I was doing there. But I want to be able to, I'm going to drop it down one notch. And when I showed you underneath what that looked like, you can see where that was. So I'll raise it up here, drop those bolts, and move everything down one notch, so it's sort of like cutting a little bit higher. All right, that was pretty easy on the other side. This side, I'll do the same. And what I found was that the roller is already down fairly far, given its little settings. It's just the shoe that is sitting up tight. Maybe they had it that way for shipping. All right, so I'm all set. I took a break for lunch. This is all ready to go. I'll fire it up. Again, check everything, make sure it's moving around like the way we want it to. And then the only other thing is I went ahead and put the bucket on. I'll put a load of some dirt in there, partly to be a counterbalance, but also I'll set that down really low. And as I'm moving around, a lot of these areas I've never flailed before, I've never mown or anything. So I will set the bucket down really low and just kind of run it across the ground in case I encounter like a rock or a big stump or something in there that I'm not aware of. Once I've kind of been over an area and I'm kind of familiar with mowing it, I won't need to do that as much. Well, that was super productive. I learned a bit. I was able to sort of feather the up and down. Some of the really big logs I had to back up over and drop the flail down on top of, but I was able to cut up some rotten old logs that were, you know, really big around. I cleared out this whole area. It looks great. We'll be able to work on this some more, kind of picking around the edges, but the difference between where this started and what it looks like now is amazing. It's completely different. Okay, a little update here. I told you yesterday I was filming and you saw some of that, and I came down, dropped into the meadow today, and I had to kind of push my way down through blackberries and thinking to myself as I went down, I'm gonna need to mow my way out to get out of here because the blackberries are actually kind of constraining. They kind of harness the tractor. So going down it was easy, but going back up, I'm gonna have to kind of back my way up and cut my way back out of the hill. I got down in here and was making good progress in mowing, and then I blew up the belt. And it started to smoke yesterday, so it just finally let go. And I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to get the tractor up and out of here today. Got really good weather today, but it's supposed to rain at the end of the day. Fortunately, I went down to my new favorite hardware store in town. It's a smaller town, but they have this great True Value. And so I got a couple belts. They were half price, and they had a whole bunch of them. So I've got replacement belts. So I'm gonna whip these on, and then I'll throw on a time lapse of getting my way out of here, and you'll kind of see what this meadow looks like. Again, the flail's working really well down in here, but it is tall blackberry. They're about 5 feet tall, and they kind of come by me in the tractor, and so I'm kind of nibbling around the edges and backing into things to get to them. Once I get this knocked down, it'll be easier to run back over it and clean it up and keep it maintained. But anyway, I'll switch to time lapse and switch this belt out and get back to work. All right, with the belts fixed up, I was able to make really good progress here. As you saw when I was going up the hill, I was backing up, and that actually, with the flail lifted up, puts a lot of weight on the back wheels, and I've got the bucket full up in front, so I never really slipped or felt like I was tippy, as long as I was staying straight up and down the hill and I was backing up to do the work. When I go into these really big piles of blackberry, it was sort of binding up because it just is a big mesh, and so I had to kind of chip my way and kind of hack across that, and then I could finally get across and then go back over. But this is amazing. It's chipping up all this Scotch broom and wood that was pretty big, and all the stumps and everything are coming out. And it's crazy, the places that I worked earlier today are already turning green. So it's gonna rain, and this'll kind of become a carpet of green in here because there's a lot of grass underneath here, and it's not digging up the grass, it's just chopping everything off above that because of that roller in the back. So I'm done for the day. I start to see a little bit of hydraulic fluid underneath the seat of the tractor. I don't know if it's just overheating because I've been running it really hard, or if I'm just getting some sort of leak in there. So I'm gonna head back up. I've got my path cut to get up and out and call it a day. And that wraps up the flail. The flail is going to be really, really useful. I'm going to use it over and over again. Thanks a lot for watching. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I can kind of fill in things. If you're a subscriber, I appreciate you coming back. And if you haven't, consider subscribing. I'm going to do other episodes on different tractor implements that I've got coming. Some of them are here. I just need to get them set up and get used to working with them. I'm also going to do a piece on stability for the tractor with some spacers and weights. So thanks again for watching. Until I see you next, I'll be out building. Have a good one.